Everybody, welcome back to Breakfast with Bob from Oceanside, California. We're at our host hotel, the beautiful Mission Pacific. My name is Bob Babbitt. We're brought to you by MasterSpas. As fuels go longer, HOKA, Let's Fly, Form Smart Swim Goggles, Zoot, the original triathlon brand, Premium Plus Sports, and of course our Challenged Athletes Foundation. Our next guest, I think we met for the first time when he shocked the world back in 2020, taking third place at the PTO Championship in beautiful Daytona. George Goodwin is back with us. How you doing, George?
Hi, Bob. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to be back. And,
it's too long.
I know, yeah. It's just always nice to be chatting to you. And, you know, when you're chatting to you, it's a big race. So.
It's a big race when I see you, right?
Yeah, hopefully.
And then after, so in 2020, that was when you look back at your career and you got into the sport when you were what? How old were you when you got into the sport?
Probably 12 or 13.
So 12 or 13 years old. And was it originally Olympic format?
Yeah, so I think as a Brit, that's always the aim.
The Olympics, absolutely.
Especially when I've grown up watching Alistair and Johnny dominate that style of racing, and it always was the aim. And I think realistically, when I got to sort of 18 or 19, I realised my swim was probably going to take a bit longer to develop than it needed to, and just naturally made the transition into this sort of.
Well, and then your first year with the longer distance, you had a lot of success, right? Castle Tri-Series, you're breaking course records. 2017, you win the British Middle Distance Championships, breaking course records. So you're like, this was a good move.
Yeah, I think, it was definitely good. And I definitely started in sort of, made sure I learned the sport, you know.
Yes.
I didn't go straight into the professional challenge and Ironman racing. Because I think, it's a big change. It's almost a different sport, I would say.
Totally,
So I made sure I learned the ropes, and then sort of in 2018, I actually, at the end of 2018, I think I had my first professional race in Challenge Mallorca. Actually, I think it was Leo's first race.
Yes.
Leo Berger's first race there as well. So, we've sort of been on a bit of a meeting again.
Path. That would be great to go race against him. And this weekend, when you looked at the start list a couple weeks ago, it was Lionel Sanders, it was Jan Frodeno, it was Leo Berger, yourself, Jackson Laundrie, Ben Canute. It's stacked, right? There's a lot of great people here. Now, Jan is out and Lionel's out, but you still got some people.
Yeah, I think the start list was so deep that actually you could, it's obviously a great shame to lose Lionel and Jan. But the start list was so deep that you could lose a couple of people and it was still
going to be great.
Feel like a really, really strong field.
Yes. And so, 2019 was huge. You win in Weymouth, you win again in Staffordshire, you get third at Barcelona. So at that point, you're feeling like, okay, this sport is going well. When you have that breakthrough, because remember there was no racing, COVID's going on, everybody comes to Daytona, greatest field assembled, and nobody was talking George Goodwin. And did you surprise yourself that day?
I think I always knew it was achievable, but I think to actually do it is a different story. I think I did surprise myself slightly.
Yes.
And then obviously that, achievement, then you go into the next year and you almost put a bit more pressure on yourself.
Right. Sponsors, more sponsors?
Yeah, a bit more attention. And it does affect you in that way, and you have to be able to cope with that. Right.
And you handled it, it seemed like you handled it pretty well, because the following year you won the European Champs.
Yeah, I think I handled it well in terms of, obviously becoming European champion was probably it's always difficult to win a title.
Right.
And it was probably my best performance of my career. But I think having that level of expectation of myself last year sort of was a bit of a catch-22. I had a few niggles and things like that.
Right.
And then I was always comparing myself to where I was, and it sort of just became a bit of an issue where, I was doing a couple of weeks training, getting a niggle, and then thinking, I'm not where I need to be, and then not committing to racing and things like that. So last year was quite a tough year. But I'm in a much better place now, and hopefully be able to show it to everyone.
It's hard because you feel an obligation. Okay, I've got these sponsors. I really need to go and perform, but you don't want to go and not perform and go backwards and also dig yourself a hole.
Yeah, exactly. And it's when you've been at the front of races, it's always very difficult to be near the back or in the middle of a race and feel like that's your limit. And you see people at the road and that's where you want to be. And sometimes that can be if you're in the right headspace, that can be very motivating.
Right.
But I think if you're in the wrong headspace, that can be a bit demotivating, thinking you've got such a long way to go. So yeah.
Has this year been tough emotionally, just going, I was 19 and 20 and 21, I was on the top of the world, and now I'm sort of having to come back?
Yeah, definitely. And I think especially when, like we said, I've been doing the sport since I was 12 or 13, and that's all you want, and that's like your whole life. I think having a year like that is quite hard.
Yes.
But it definitely makes me appreciate, being fit and healthy again.
And this course, have you raced here before?
No, I've never raced here before, so it'd be interesting. I've watched it a few times, and it's obviously, in cycling you've got the 5 monuments. I think if triathlon had a monument, this would definitely be one of them. So yeah, I'm very excited to do it. Obviously I won't get to see the course beforehand.
Right, yeah, you can't go on that. Yeah. That's what's really special about this race is you start in the surf, and then you come into the harbor, and then you go out on the bike course, and Camp Pendleton is a military base. Yeah. It's closed to people riding, except if you've ridden it before in the race. And there's some really good climbs out there. And when you get off the bike, you're running right here on the Strand, and there are thousands of spectators. So it's it's funny because people go, oh, it's a flat course. It's not a flat course.
No, the bike looks, and even the run, like I remember watching last year, there's a few drags and a few hills down onto the front.
Yeah, you look at the pier behind us.
Yeah.
Those ramps going up, those take their toll on the second lap.
Definitely, yeah.
Going up those little bulls. So what are the goals for this year?
So I think the start of the year is to race a few times, see where I'm at, and see where what we can work on.
Right.
But I think I'd like to focus on, like, August is a big month because you've got European champs and world champs.
Yeah, 70.3 worlds. Yes.
Yeah. And then maybe at the end of the year I might dip my toe into doing a full distance.
You're thinking
potentially? Yeah. Like, I think I've been doing 70.3 a few years now.
Right.
So it'd be nice to give it a go and see how it.
Now, will you try to get into some of the PTO events?
Yeah, I think I will. It's not the be all and end all for me this year. I think if one comes along and I happen to get my ranking up, then that's like a nice byproduct of having a good year. But yeah, I'm not going to say like 100% that's going to be my goal, because
have your sponsors been supportive?
Very supportive. Yeah. Like HOKA have been really supportive, and so I'd say big thank you to them for
that is very cool. When you're dealing with, sometimes you get a major injury, you're like, okay, I've got a major injury, and I've got to sit for a while. But when you get sort of like little niggles, it's my Achilles a little sore, my hamstring's a little tight. Those are things that can drive you crazy because you can come back too soon and hurt it again.
Exactly. And also, I was getting multiple different little niggles. So I'd like rehab one thing and then another thing, and it would go, and it'd be, to have to do that again. And so it felt like a bit of a never ending. But thankfully I'm on top of it now.
What have you learned about yourself through this? Because this is a sort of a testing period as an athlete when you've had the highs and then all of a sudden, you don't.
Yeah, I think I just learned that you've got to keep on going. Like it will always, if you keep trucking away and keep your head sort of focused on the bigger picture, it will eventually, come good.
I love it. George, as always, thanks so much for taking time. And like you said, it's always a big event when George Goodwin's on the starting line. I like seeing you here.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks very much.
George Goodwin has been our guest, everybody. Again, Breakfast with Bob from the beautiful Mission Pacific Hotel. Hold on. We'll be right back.